And welcome back to another edition of the Adventures in South Korea, featuring myself, living, adapting, and adjusting to life as an English teacher. My trusty 125 Hyosung Mirage, otherwise known as the Beast, was key to this adventure. City dwelling has always been a challenge for me, so in this video we will explore some of the locations I could easily escape to and the companions made on this journey. Let's pick it up right from where we left off in the last video, riding back from Daejeon. Just to recap, riding my 125cc with the bigger 600 to 800cc bikes meant that I was always left behind. And so here you see them waiting for me when the journey needed to take a turn, as I didn't actually know where I was going. I did try and catch up, but it was still early days in my riding experience, and just so stoked to be flying through this mountainous area, this new landscape, alone or in a crowd, as long as I knew where I was going. There was always the chance to catch up at the rest stops or at some of the tourist locations along the way. And some of the restaurants for lunch certainly beat any location in the city. As I established in the last video, I lived in Daejeon, in the older eastern part of the city known as Jungnidong. It was quite a mishmash of residential apartments and businesses with overhanging cables and very little open space. Compared to most digs, I was very lucky to have a rooftop apartment where I could have outdoor space to myself and invite friends over for even a pool party, would you believe it? But it was a matter of time before I put my two wheels to good use and looked for the nearest beach. Heading west out of Daejeon on the number 32 road, also featured in the last video, took me again past Gonzo, a town I soon look forward to sharing more of, but don't have time right now with such a need for the coastline. Arriving at Mungcheongpo took about just under 2 hours and not as secluded as I was hoping, so off I went to explore more of the coastline, realizing the value of this motorcycle and its ability to get around much easier than having a car. Most of this coastline was used for commercial fishing, but there were some good areas. I'd completely missed Daejeon Beach, which was further up north, but here I found my own little spot for now, a beach called Geumsan. It was relatively clean and not a soul around, so I had it all to myself. The water was a little bit cold, but I didn't hesitate to have a quick swim. Pay attention to the bracelet on my left wrist.
Beautiful.
Here you can see it again, and it's a very special bracelet to me at the time. I picked it up while traveling in Thailand, but in this moment here, it's gone. So I discovered the first beach with a bracelet offering to the ocean spirits, but I have many more and all get lost in time. But the ride home that evening had a feeling of accomplishment. One of the other sanctuaries I had from the city was my hammock. From the morning coffees to the sunbathing afternoons, or even sometimes with a beer, and the nighttime settings, the rooftop was slowly becoming my home until the winter hit, and I came down with a flu bug, just as neighbors were reconstructing their apartment.
So today I have the flu. I'm staying at home in my bed because I'm really sick. And downstairs they are working on the new flats. And there's nowhere else for me to go unless I went back into school to do some work. Fuck off!
Even though city living was a challenge for me, the need to socialize was a must for most expats living in Korea. Yellow Taxi, Cantina, and Central, all memorable bars that just didn't last in such a competitive market. And then there was Wuthering Ghost, a cocktail bar owned by Jonathan, which even though was quite small, was able to have live music and late night dance parties, a place I will at a later stage try out some DJing of my own. In the meantime, with Bum City Band jamming to a classic Prince cover, Conrad riding a 650cc Comet and myself still in the 125 Hyosung will share directions to a magnificent spot for coffee, 15 minutes ride from leaving school. From the rooftop, it was a trip down either of the two main roads which the camera follows, ignoring pedestrians on right turns, and heading east out of the city towards the mountains.
So this is where a lot of my school kids are going to be.
Passing through one of the old neighborhoods I used to live in,
Rinjan!
spotting two of my students on the crossing,
Yeah, they're not paying attention, man. Just looking at their phones.
then getting on the motorway that cuts through the mountains towards Okcheon. Conrad's Hyosung used to belong to James Taylor, one of the stars from the first adventure, and already he's out of sight, probably already passed over the first small bridge that I'm passing over now. But I catch up with him just as we take the turning left and take a lakeside ride along a road decorated with trees.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
This route I will share again because I've been along it so often and captured so many shots to get to this location. First discovered back in 2013 after a group of expat teachers rented a small bungalow, otherwise known as a pension, and swam in the lake. You can see the cafe in the background. It was a Chuseok weekend and the cafe was actually closed. Being the Korean Thanksgiving, there were no people around. So at the time we had the lake all to ourselves. These days it's very popular, overpriced, and with a lot of tourists around. But at the time I found this little spot before anyone else did, and I used to come here after school and just have my own bit of peace. Secretly named the Cafe of Liam. However, from the rooftop, it was more fun to head west through the city and meet Gordon at his place in Donghaksa. From there, we would explore and get lost on two wheels. As I mentioned in the last video, Gordon had many years learning the roads better than any GPS could muster, and he knew the best places to visit.
Excellent. Oh, that'd be perfect, perfect.
So the bike Gordon had here was a Honda Steed 600cc, much more powerful than the Beast. But she does do well to catch up, especially at the traffic lights. But this 32 road is where she screamed the most. What the hell? Son of a... Even though it might look fast with the GoPro, I'm only maxing 100 kilometers an hour, and that's about 60 miles an hour, but it's still such an adrenaline rush.
That was nice.
So for those of you paying attention, yes, we are again passing through Gongju, as due to the mountainous terrain, the 32 is the only road west. And here you can see where we are heading to, the Jonggeunbong Trail. Now this was not some nickname invented by Gordon. This was an actual title to a logging road on the side of a mountain. I do remember seeing a signpost for it on the way back from the beach, but for Gordon to find this says a lot about his riding philosophy. There are many different types of bike riders. Adventure was Gordon's main focus, to get away from the crowds and the main roads, wandering indirectly to natural locations untouched by modern living or tourist hordes, and this was the perfect spot. Even though being a cloudy, hazy day and the company of a dead bug still smudged on the camera lens, this breathtaking view is certainly something to be admired.
Oh my god, that looks amazing. That is incredible.
What was so unique about this spot is how few people know of it, or find the need to visit.
Good lord. We are in the middle of nowhere.
And as Gordon points to the mountain road back through the farming village in the valley, I'm still quite stunned with where I actually am.
Yeah, I've got to come back here again when the picture's better.
The yellow crop in the valley is rice ready for harvest, and the journey back will take us through this farming village. On the way down, I remember feeling quite fortunate compared to most expats stuck in the metropolis from where this journey started.
Holy shit. Look at that.
For me, the biggest noticeable surprise, other than the breathtaking mountain views, was the amount of natural biosphere in South Korea once leaving the huge concrete jungles. What can't be shared here is the comforting smell and feeling of joy in the forests. Even though riding through on a motorcycle, the term forest bathing, which was invented in this part of the world, was still very much felt. It suggested a sort of symbiosis with a more natural organic energy, and certainly noticeable when making these sorts of journeys. I'm not sure if one could experience the same in a car, but it was most definitely experienced by myself on the bike. This is just my own perspective from the experience, and obviously debatable. But what I was becoming aware of was how the beast made it easy to step outside of the city with its concrete, metal, and intense Wi-Fi antennas, and into this country setting so quickly. Coming down into the farming village with basic housing, limited streetlights, and wide open space felt like I was going back in time in Korean history to how people used to live. But then at the same time, city living did have its pluses as an expat living in a foreign country. As Matt, Paul, David and Chris come together for this one jam and bring out a great original song, I have to acknowledge how lucky I was to experience something like this, and the variety of nightlife fun for the weekends, exotic meals, Christmas parties, get-togethers and Halloween with such creative ideas. During the daytime hours, I was riding on the beast, following Gordon and sometimes a crew of other riders, exploring some of the far-off locations and distant places, but at night it was the bizarre world of Daejeon nightlife. Mario and Oompa Loompa, Evil Dead and burlesque dances could be a feature for the weekend. But a Sunday ride out of the city to refreshen the mind was also very needed. But as usual on the 125, I'm always playing catch up. Some weekends it was beer pong, late night fun, Bloody Marys for Sunday brunch, but on this Sunday it was a trip down the 68 to another location that Gordon knew. I'm going to take this opportunity to showpiece Matt and the band rocking it up in Wuthering Ghost. I feel this is also great energy for this ride, as good music always suits a long journey on two wheels. Even though this was one of my first times riding south on the 68 route, it was actually a road I now know so well, with many rides up and down this mountain country setting. At the time, Daejeon had this great depth of musical talent, as Jude and Brett look on, two other band members that brought us some live rocking sounds. I can tell you who wasn't waiting for me were the other bikers. Haha, I couldn't resist that line. Just as I can't resist to remind you to like and subscribe to the channel, so maybe one day these adventures can be my main profession with Gonzo exploration from around the world. But this current riding excursion is still south on the 68 towards Geumsan, famous for ginseng. Picking up Adam along the way, as you see now joining the riding crew and looking ever so stylish. Coffee breaks along the way are so essential for long rides, and this 7-Eleven in Geumsan was the perfect spot, as motorcycles cannot travel on the big motorway tolls We usually have to travel the smaller roads going through the towns like Geumsan.
When I leave someday, you'll always wear his ring. The one you twist when you know you've done a bad thing.
Looking back to this moment, and at the time, as a riding novice, I couldn't help but feel slightly intimidating riding through this small farming town like marauding pirates or extras from a Mad Max movie. This is a great image of the main riding crew heading to a location in the mountains that I only ever got to experience one time. Unfortunately, camera batteries ran short this day, and I was left to just a few memorable still shots that highlighted some awesome views and moments in time that left an impression and started an obsession. I know we headed south from Daejeon, passing through Geumsan, before losing track of exactly where this place is or what it's called. If you know the name of this location, do feel free to leave a comment, as it certainly was a surprise to find this in the middle of nowhere. And shout out to the band for the background ambiance. 2015 certainly was a time for new beginnings on the motorcycle. I always had such a genuine fear of riding motorbikes until I actually tried for myself. I truly never knew one could get so much joy and freedom from the experience. Obviously, it's important to be safe and careful, and don't ride alone on trips like this. Overtaking on the 125cc, now that's the perfect terrain for the beast. Actually, it was the only time I think I did that, as I was more looking to hit a flat road after a long bumpy ride. I also recommend good motorcycle leathers and not a woolen overcoat, as the flu I had from the beginning of this video was due to near hypothermia conditions during this journey. But in my books there are no mistakes, only learning experiences, and this trip to Yongdam certainly gave me that. This was a regular riding jaunt with hardly any traffic and one of the most peaceful picnic locations on the planet. And so as we come to the end of this video, sharing some of the best moments and places to explore, introducing the riding crew, I also have to shout out to James Nielsen, my rugby pal from the first video, who sold me the beast. And even though it might have been overpriced for its condition, I certainly got more than it's worth. So don't forget, if you enjoy these videos, like and subscribe and share with your friends. Much more to come with the adventures in Gonzo Vision.
The great outdoors! Holy shit! Uniram, Baniram. And I just was like, what a fucking goony goo goo name.
Good stuff.